All right, let's try this. Hey, beautiful people. Rev Derek here. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok at Rev Derek Terry. I'm jumping on today to talk about the killing, the murder, the death of Dante Wright, the unarmed. I feel like this is like taking up a lot. Better. But I'm not that cute today, so maybe I should have it taking up more. The unarmed black male on April 11th, Sunday, Minneapolis, Minnesota suburb, was killed by Kim Porter, white female, 26-year veteran on the police force. Disregard, I see this big, all I see is Reagan. I'm not a fan, but I'm a history buff. I'm in school to get this PhD in history. Presidential biographies are something that I'm into. There we go. That's the first laugh I've had in a while because I feel like whenever there's these murders, it's traumatizing. But I also realize it's not just the act itself that's traumatizing. It's the pattern that we slip into that's traumatizing. And what do I mean by that? It's being on social media since this happened and seeing person after person after person after person seek to justify the killing. And bring up, well, black on black crime and X number of people were killed by the police. What does that have to do with looting? And if he would just comply, and it's like bullshit. This is all bullshit. Philando Castile did what he was supposed to do, dead. Young girl in the back seat, his girlfriend sitting next to him, watching him die. I watched him die on my phone when I woke up. Compliance means nothing. Hands up, don't shoot. You still get shot. George Floyd was literally handcuffed on the ground. A man resting his body on his neck. And as if resisting or non-compliance means that the police officer gets to be the judge, jury, and executioner. But the difference is, this is how we treat black bodies in this country. They are less than. The only value is if they are under complete and total control. And if not, then they can be executed. It was actually black people always, we talk about America's lynching era, over at least 5,000 that we can record. Black men, women, children, humans were lynched in the time post-Civil War, during Reconstruction through the 1950s. That's America's lynching era. And so people always ask, well, how many slaves were lynched? Slaves were rarely lynched. Why? Because they had value. Because to own a slave, even if you cut off his feet or her feet, you could still use their hands, their minds, right? They could still nurse. They could still procreate. So what you did with the slave was you tried to break the body, or you tried to break the mind, keep the body to function. It was like owning a car. It was like owning a mule, a horse. The commodification. And so the dangerous part came for black people when we no longer had that value, that worth. And we could be executed. Why? It's slaves could sell for several $100s, 150 years ago, several $100. Wow, it's a lot of money now. Think then, right? $1,000 then. It's unheard of. There's thousands. But now what? You're stuck with this. Ever since 1619, when 20 and odd Negroes, that's what the records say, 20 and odd Negroes, 20-something black people came. This country chose slavery for us and chose eventually that our offspring would be slaves in perpetuity until we went to war. Literally, this country went to war. We still don't know how many people died in the Civil War, but this country went to war to protect or to save slavery. And we have to reconcile with that. I'm a history, that's the whole point of my Race, Rage, and Fear is to teach history, to understand how we got to where we are, that this country went to war to protect the institution of slavery. This country went to war to continue to own, to continue to commodify, to continue to reject black people to some type of subhuman place. And we've come a long way from that place, but we have a really long way to go. And so what I mean by that is, I made several TikToks today, been on TikTok almost 3 months. Today's the first day. I was today years old. It's November 13th. November. That's my sister's birthday. It's April 13th. I was today years old when I got my first opportunity where people use my videos to make negative, to attack me or to attack my platform, what I was saying. And I made 3. One, I just made one, talking about Kim Potter for killing Dante. Here's the facts. It's wrong. Made one, what should happen to her? Basically, I'll share that one with you here. And then made one, what if the police officer were black? So what if it was a black male officer who accidentally killed a 20-year-old white female because he reached for his gun and not his taser? Would these same people be in my comments saying things like, you shouldn't break the law, or mistakes happen? I think not. America's racist. Fix it. And I say what would happen because after those first 2 that I posted, those first 2 videos that I posted, people were in my comments justifying, well, he should have complied. Well, if you don't break the law, you don't have to worry about this. And he shouldn't have done this, and he shouldn't have done that. And police are stressed. And of course, a poor black man, 20 years old, with a young child in this country has no stress, right? With 3 police officers standing over him, right? Pulled over for a car freshener, expired tags, and a failure to pay a fine during the quarantine that was on a payment plan, so it was poor, right? He has no stress, but the 26-year veteran who's been a police officer longer than he's been alive, who has the power in that situation, it's justified that she accidentally used her gun instead of her taser. The gun and taser felt and looked that much alike. But see what it is, it's fear. When you have a black male, this country has been trained, and not just a black male, a black person, but especially a black male, this country has been trained to fear them. So I'm 6'5", a whole lot of pounds, none of your business how many. and I'm black, and I'm big. I take up a lot of space. And so when I walk in places, just my presence makes me a threat, right? Just because how I look. Doesn't matter how I sound. Doesn't matter I have 3 degrees, working on a 4th. Doesn't matter I pastor a church. Doesn't matter I have white God kids. Doesn't matter I have a decent credit score. Doesn't matter I drive a nice car. Doesn't matter how I dress. Doesn't matter that I grew up very middle class. None of that matters. That I have a history of education in my family. None of that matters. My father's a cop. None of that matters. Articulate business owner. None of that matters because my look already does and says something. And so, like Du Bois says, Black people are always aware of that. We have that two oneness, how we see ourselves, but also how others perceive and see us. And so in our country, people will justify and say all this stuff because, Black people, they commit more crime, right? That's what that Black people, you should be afraid of them, right? But what we are not allowed in those moments is to be human, is to be afraid. Because guess what? We should be afraid of police. When I see the lights, I get petrified. Petrified. Because I don't know who am I going to get. Are they going to just look this big Black man driving a nice car? Like, what are they going to think? What are they going to do? What's going to happen? So, I didn't want to rant on here. More than anything, I wanted to talk about how it feels. How it feels. I have lots of white people that follow me, and I love them. Lots of white members. And to empathize, it's one thing to see it over and over again, right? We see this happening. But it's not just seeing it on the news, seeing it on social media. It's watching, it's feeling how much it affects you. Like, it's something that is literally all-consuming. It's what all of my friends are talking about. It's what we're all posting about. It's a weight that's on us. But then when I go out in the world and I see people walking their dogs and their kids and they're playing and they're having fun, and I'm thinking, are you feeling this? I remember when Stephon Carter was killed in California. Right after I heard that, I went to Starbucks. Just, I'm a coffee person. I don't drink, barely drink, maybe once or twice a year. I don't have any other vices. But I'm addicted to caffeine in coffee. So went to get my coffee. I don't even like Starbucks coffee, but because I'm me, people give me gift cards, I go there. And I just get regular venti, usually blonde roast. Anyway, you don't want to know all that. Anyway, I'm getting coffee, and there are these girls in there, this is before COVID. And they're just laughing. They're, a couple years younger than me, white. They're just laughing, and they're going to try on clothes. One of them is selling clothes. So I guess the meetup spot was Starbucks. So, they're going to get their coffee, and one's going to go in the bathroom and try on some clothes, and they're just giggling, and I'm like, Stephon Carter is dead. It's like this, like, doesn't this bother you? Don't you carry this around with you? And I'm not saying they didn't care, but it impacts them differently. Hearing George Floyd's pleas, Philando Castile sing that, Alton Sterling sing that, even old videos, Rodney King being beaten. Like, seeing these things and hearing these things, and you think what my ancestors felt in 55 when Emmett Till was lynched. It's every time it happens, you're different. Every time it happens, a part of you feels less human. And not because you think of yourself as less human, but because you find yourself in a world, in a country, that no matter what, makes excuses for why your life is not as important as it should be. So, we say in the Declaration of Independence that we're all endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among them is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But when those words were written, it didn't include me. It didn't include my ancestors. It didn't include my progeny. And unfortunately, that stain of not including people like me remains. And so how we feel is broken. And then you get on social media, then you get on television, and you see and you hear and you read people arguing, justifying, making excuses. Well, you should comply. Complying for Black people has never meant automatic safety or not being killed. Well, you shouldn't break the law. No, you shouldn't kill us. Because a white person, if it was a white person doing the same thing, you wouldn't say, oh, well, you shouldn't break the law. And then people say, why is it always about race? It's about race because in our country, it's always about race. If George Zimmerman looked like Trayvon Martin and Trayvon Martin looked like George Zimmerman, and a white-looking man killed, or a black-looking man killed a white-looking 17-year-old, he would be in jail today. And you know that. And you know that. If Tamir Rice was a 12-year-old white boy playing in the park, he would not have been killed. He would be alive today. That's why it's always about race. Because in this country, race and class and gender determine who lives and who dies. So in the video I made, what if it were a black cop killing a white woman? Oh, some people couldn't wait to, well, that's happened. It did happen, and that black brother went to jail for 12.5 years. But what I don't remember is white people saying, mistakes happen, police are stressed. Because they justify, right? Because if you're a black person, oh, well, you shouldn't be breaking the law. And some of the language people use, the whole idea of mistakes happen. Bullshit. I call bullshit. And so what do? Of course we get mad, but we have to have police reform. We have to have bail reform. You should not have a lifelong permanent entanglement with the police simply because you can't afford to pay something. That's classist. And it's probably usually racist because black people are usually more poor than white people. Now, of course, there are a lot of poor white people out here and they get entangled with the criminal justice system and they got the same problems as my black counterparts minus the blackness. And it ain't right. So I'm going to be talking about this for a little bit, talking about some anti-racist stuff that we could do. Thank you so much to my Patreons. I would make so many more videos if I had more Patreons. I just don't, but we're working on it. Thank you all so much for your support. If you have any questions, reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok at Rev Derek Terry. I just feel so defeated. But we who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Take care. Love you all so much. Hit me up. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok at Rev Derek Terry. RevDerek.com, DerekTerry.com. Patreon.com/race rage fear. Peace.